Hello and welcome to Blog Sprout. I'm LJ and today I'm going to go through some real life data comparing the EPMV across my site for mobile versus desktop based on different locations and comparing different browsers. So let's dive in. So we're going to compare data for the last 90 days. So everything we see on my screen here is going to be over the last 90 days. So what we can see is the overall revenue, the overall EPMV, and other stats such as page views and visits, things like that. So over the last 90 days, my site, just through ads, has had a $26.42 EPMV. So if you're not familiar with EPMV, this stands for earnings per 1,000 visits. So rather than page views, it takes the value of a single visitor. A visitor might come to your site and look at multiple pages, which they don't do much on my site, but that is a metric that Ezoic primarily uses to monitor the value basically of your visitors. So what we're going to take a look at first is I have some determined things in here. So we're going to add desktop traffic and then mobile traffic. So what we're going to see when I run this report is we're going to see the overall revenue, then we're going to see the revenue for the desktop, and then the revenue for just the mobile. And it should also show us at the bottom what the different EPMVs are. So on here you can see, the blue is the total revenue, the green is the desktop revenue, and this kind of red, orange is the mobile revenue. So as you can clearly see, I make more from my desktop than I do the mobile traffic. But when you look at the actual, visits, only 30% of my traffic is actually coming from desktop, but it's accounting for 60% of my total revenue. So that's something I've thought about for a while now, is trying to figure out ways to encourage desktop viewing, is really targeting keywords that people are more likely to be looking at on their computer. I haven't quite gotten there, but at the same time, I do recognize that this isn't unusual to see a distribution like this, where 60% is coming from mobile and the other 40, and in this case 30, is coming from desktop. But what's staggering is this EPMV number. So over the course of the 90 days, the desktop traffic EPMV is over $50, $50, and the mobile traffic is $15. That is a huge, huge difference. It's not uncommon for desktop to have higher EPMVs than mobile. You're just dealing with a wider screen. People are typically on it, longer than a phone. When you're on a phone, you're like kind of quick moving through, and there's only so many ads that can show up on a small screen. So it's not unusual, but I have no reference if this is a crazy difference or not. I'd love to hear in the comments if you've seen something similar to this. So what I'm going to do is take a look at, the EPMV trend across all of them. So you can kind of see, over the last 90 days, so pretty much since the beginning of 2023, things were starting to climb at the beginning of February, but it's been kind of in a downtrend ever since. What's interesting is that it's not really that interesting, I guess, but what we can see is kind of everything has been in a slight downtrend. There's no specific mobile or desktop, which is what you would anticipate. So there. All right, so that's taking a look at desktop versus mobile. Let's take a look at the different search engines. So if you've been following my channel, you know that my main site only gets about 56% of my traffic from Google. The rest is from other search engines such as Bing, DuckDuckGo, and Yahoo. But Google, Bing, and DuckDuckGo are my top search engines. So that's what we're going to compare here. So I'm going to go, just back to the revenue. And then the segments, I made a Bing traffic segment, I made a DuckDuckGo segment, and I made a Google traffic. So if we run a report, we'll see how the levels, the EPMV, how they vary across these different engines. So, we can see from the revenue metrics, in blue is our total revenue. In yellow is Google, which takes up the majority. And then Bing is our next highest, and then DuckDuckGo is minimal. If we take a look at the breakdown of actual traffic, we can see that Bing accounts for, 18% of the revenue and only 10% of the visits. DuckDuckGo is 4.5% of the revenue, but 12%. So that's more than Bing, but it is significantly less income. And then Google accounts for 63% of the revenue, and it's about equal at 61% of visits. So that's much closer kind of to a 1-to-1 ratio. But what's staggering is how valuable Bing traffic is. I'm getting $48 in EPMV from Bing and only 27 from Google. So if you remember on the last report we looked at, my desktop traffic was 50. So this is either telling me that most people looking at Bing are using their computer, or Bing's just an overall better and more valuable traffic. Why? I don't know. I know I could break down and take a look at Bing mobile traffic versus Bing desktop traffic. I just haven't set that up entirely. I'm trying to take this approach more holistically, just to prepare you for the different EPMV rates you can see with various factors. Maybe I'll dive into that if that's something you guys are interested in. So let me know in the comments if you'd like me to kind of dive a little bit further. But right now, I'm just trying to stick to a little bit of a high level to show you how things can be so variable depending on some of these factors. So what's really upsetting is that the DuckDuckGo traffic that's bringing in 12% on average of my visits is less than a $10 EPMV. Again, I can break down that DuckDuckGo traffic maybe by location and see if there's a trend there. I just haven't done that yet, but it is pretty obvious based on these results that there's quite a significant difference between the different search engines that bring in traffic. And I will note that Yahoo would be, I think, in the next section, and it's similar to Bing in EPMV from previous results. So the last thing we're going to do is take a look at location. So my main traffic sources are Canada and US. So we're going to run this report and take a look. So overall, the Canada traffic EPMV is slightly lower than, actually more than slightly lower, than the US traffic. It's not, it's very well known that there is pretty significant value to US traffic, and that is clearly shown here. We can see that proportionally 94% of my revenue comes from US and only 5% from Canada. So, that pretty much leaves very little room for the rest of the countries. And I took a look at, some of the data from other countries, and I'm actually surprised at what some of the EPMVs are, and I think we're going to take a look into that. But this has a wide enough kind of net and sampling size that we can say that US traffic is one of the most valuable traffic sources. So we're now going to go to a different report on Ezoic. We're going to take a look at audience and go to location. So you can't see that's on the side of the screen, but what we're going to do here is I'm going to remove these filters, rerun the report just to clean that up. And here we can see where I'm getting most of my traffic from. Again, 90% of it is from the US. 7.4 is from Canada. And then we have Vietnam, Australia, UK, Mexico, Pakistan. And they're all pretty insignificant numbers compared to the US and Canada. But what we're going to do here is we're going to sort by EPMV. So I'm going to show the highest EPMV on the top. So what we're seeing here is this I found pretty interesting, that granted the sample size for the rest of these, these countries that are listed here, actually you can't see that, is pretty small. Everything is under 100, which I would say is insignificant. But still the traffic that I'm getting from these sites, which I expected to have really low EPMVs, are actually quite high. We have 2 showing higher than the US and 9 other than the US, I guess 8 showing higher than Canada. So all the top 10 countries are over $20 EPMV. But if we take a look kind of down the route, we can start to see a lot more countries listed in there, and we can see those really low end. Oh my goodness, this is disappointing. Okay, some with zeros. Oh, that's so sad. Ones. Oh my goodness. This is hard to watch. But you can take a look, there's definitely some some other countries outside of Europe and North America that seem to have pretty low EPMVs. Again, the sample sizes are pretty low, but considering there are so many other countries with these low numbers that have, oh, this is sad. What did I say? Vietnam was my third or fourth highest country, has a 76-cent EPMV. Wow, that's a bummer. Anyway, but it just makes it really interesting to think about these, these countries and why they may be particularly high, even higher than the US compared to all the other countries that are showing really low EPMVs. So that's all I have for today, where we went over some of the EPMV metrics for my site. I hope it was a little bit insightful for you to give you some idea of how your site is performing compared to mine. If you're seeing similar trends, I would imagine that you will see some similar observations as I was seeing. But all we looked through today was, mobile versus desktop, the type of source such as Bing, Google, and then the location. There are many other factors that can go into EPMVs, but these are some of the really core factors that'll impact basically the value of your traffic. So if I had any takeaways from this, one, I would think about if there's any ways you can be creative to optimize the type of content you publish that would be better fit for a desktop. You'd have to be creative because clearly I haven't done it, but if you can think of it, I think that could really help you. Try to target the US and Canada. I think there's been some success, with people targeting the UK. Obviously, I'm based out of the US, so I think it's a little bit easier to align everything. And then lastly, this is kind of out of your control, is the traffic source. But basically what I would tell you out here is don't discount Bing and Yahoo and DuckDuckGo. They're still worth going after, especially if you're interested in affiliate marketing. If you can gain the traffic, you might not be getting the ad rates, but you'll be getting some traffic that could convert for affiliate commission sales. So make sure you're doing the necessary steps to get your site on one of those, because you could be a site like mine in which Google is not dominating your visitors, and who comes to your website. I'm getting a lot of traffic from other sources. Granted, I'm not happy about the DuckDuckGo ones because the rates are so low, but the Bing ones make up for it. So definitely make sure your site is set up for Bing Webmaster and you have your XML sitemap submitted. So thanks for watching. I hope this was a little bit insightful. If there's anything that you found particularly interesting or you want me to talk about again, I'd love to hear it in the comments. I do a pretty good job of getting to all of them. So I appreciate you watching through this video. I'm LJ and this is Blog Sprout. See you in the next video. Bye.